So, just want to come on and talk about a possible rapture of the church. And I'm not trying to pick a day and hour. I'm not doing all of that, but I'm just saying um, it's a possibility that we can be in that time frame where the Lord returns. Um, I believe that Adam and Eve was born on the Feast of Trumpets. I also believe Jesus was born on the Feast of Trumpets. And I believe that history with Adam and Eve started on the Feast of Trumpets. And I believe that 6,000 years of history will end on the Feast of Trumpets. I believe the trumpets is a signal for war, and it's a signal for the crowning of the king, the Messiah, the coronation of the king. It is a trumpet for the dead coming out of the grave, and it is a sign for uh, new beginnings as well. So the things that we see, the wars and rumors of wars, the famines, the pestilences, the earthquakes, is exactly what Jesus Christ said would happen just before he comes back. As a matter of fact, that seems to be the case right now. Matthew 24, the first 7 verses, it seems to be where we at now in history. Man, there's things going on right now. There's a possibility of a war between Israel and Hezbollah, and Lebanon, and that seems to be America sending their ships and their planes over there as well. So NATO or some forms of NATO will be fighting with Israel in that war. Um, if you ask me, it's a setup. That's what I'll say it is. It's a setup. World War III was always prophesied or predicted by a man named Albert Pike. Matter of fact, he predicted World War I, World War II, and World War III, the exact players that would be playing in that war. And that seems to be the case right now. Now, the reason why I say I believe that it could be 2024 is really simple reasons. I don't have any complicated reasons why. The reason why I think it is I believe, I see a lot of people calculating, they had to do full videos on why they believe that 2030, 2031, 2032 is the time period. The reason why I believe it is pretty simple, and I kind of get in trouble when I say it. But God told Noah that his spirit will not always strive with man, for his time will be 120 years. Now, if he kills off that generation with the flood, then he's saying that the next time his spirit will not always strive with man. That means there is a time period that God has on his calendar. Remember when Jesus went up in heaven and his disciples, apostles were watching him go up in heaven, and he says, then the 2 angels said, why are you watching, glazing at him? The same Jesus will come back just like he left. And we are in that same time period where we can say that Jesus is going to come back in the same way he left. And it seems to be right now that this is happening as we speak. Now, the reason why I think 2024 will play a pivotal part, because I'm a simpleton. I'll go back 50 years. If a lot of people, many people are saying we're in the end times, go back 50 years and find out what happened. The number one thing that happened was the Yom Kippur War in 1973. And during that war, they blew the trumpet. I know that the leader of the military was one of the ones blowing the trumpet. And that declares that the Jubilee has started. But instead of looking at 73 as the time you count up 50 years, you look at 74 and count up 50 years. So 1974 was the end of the Jubilee year. So after that, the clock stops for that Jubilee, 119th Jubilee cycle, and the 120th Jubilee cycle starts at that point. Then you count up 50 years and you come to what? 2024, the fall. So could I be wrong? Yeah, we've been wrong before. But if it's 120 Jubilee cycles times 50 is 6,000 years, that will mean that if you can backtrack when a Jubilee ended and where it started, then you can calculate up pretty simple when it's going to end and when it's going to begin. So the day of the Lord comes as year 7,000, right? And it seems to be on the clock. That's why you see all these things happening right now. The weather changing, the wars and rumors of wars, the famines, the food prices going up sky high, the economy's crashing. That's why you see all these things happening. That's why you see China sending the flotilla, a big giant flotilla armada, or whatever they call that thing, where they send tons of ships to the border of Taiwan. That's why you have Russia at our feet right now in America, in Florida, in the sea, sending submarines and all this other stuff. In the same place Cuban Missile Crisis was, the problem we have with the Cuban Missile Crisis is the same thing going on there right now. That's why you see the government's acting kind of weird. Everything's being set up for the new world order. You know, they're already setting up for all this stuff. So guess what? We are in the times and the seasons for the Antichrist to rise up. And a lot of people are looking and they're saying, where's the falling away? Is the falling away after the rapture? No, the falling away came when Paul died and when the apostles left. He even gave you a warning. He said in the book of Jude, he said, evil men and imposters will come in. In the book of Peter, it says the evil man will come in and they will make merchandise of you and they'll bring in heresies. It said in Timothy, 1 Timothy chapter 4, that there be doctrines of demons being preached in the end times. There's a parable in Luke 13, verses 18 and 21. And the parable, the first parable goes like this. A sower went out into his yard and sowed mustard seed, and a tree grew up. And when the tree grew up, the fowls of the air came into the trees and branched there. And the second one was a man had dough of bread, and a woman came in and hid leaven into the bread, into the whole bread was leavened. So what does that mean? Well, the first parable of the tree with the fowls of the air, saying that false prophets and false preachers will come and lodge into the church. And the second one was saying a lady hid 3 measures of meal till the whole thing was leavened. So in the end times, the whole thing will be leavened. There'll be heresies. And as soon as Paul dies, as soon as the apostles die, in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd century, a man named Augustine came in and sold you agnostic Christianity that is still today. I was watching a show, one of the shows, where one of the guys on the panel was, this is just a typical show, just a simple people, and he said, well, the spirit doesn't sin, but the body does. That's agnostic teachings. And that's not going to get you raptured. That's what that show is all about, being raptured. And you're not going to be raptured if you're teaching a different gospel. What did it say in Galatians chapter 1? If you preach any other gospel than the one you have heard, you'll be accursed. This is what's happening now. The gospel that's supposed to be preached, that Jesus left, is not being preached at all today. Anyway, God bless you guys, and you guys have a wonderful day. I'll try to come back later with another video. God bless.